Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel, and today we will discuss the situation in Ukraine on the 20th of August of 2024. Today we have a lot of very interesting updates, so let's start. And telling the truth, today we have hilarious report because today the Ukrainian sources published their own vision of the situation on the ground. Before the 20th of August, a lot of sources, a lot of military experts were making adjustments on their map, trying to find out where exactly the Ukrainian positions are located, where exactly the Russian forces are located, and most of the mappers adjusted their maps based on the geolocations first of all, and the second based on the reports of the Ministry of Defense of Russian Federation or Ukrainian, let's say, forces, and the adjustments were made based on the reliable resources, so basically based on the posts on the Telegram or in the X social network. But today we got the most important and the most valuable report since the beginning of the Kursk offensive operation that was published by the Syrskyi, the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of Ukraine. He provided his own map and he's shown us where exactly the Ukrainian forces are located, where exactly the Russian forces are located, and he answered the most important question, where exactly the line of combat contact is going. And if we compare his map that he published and the map that you can see right now in front of your screen, there are a lot of very important changes. We will discuss them step by step, so enjoy the video. First, let's talk about the eastern flank, about the situation that is taking place between the city of Glushkovo and the city of Koreneva. So this is the left corner. I can't increase the map because the quality is very poor and it really takes me a lot of time to understand where exactly the line of combat contact is going. So according to the map of Syrskyi, everything that you can see on the military summary map in this area is the same as you can find or see in the map of the commander-in-chief Syrskyi. So everything the same. Now let's move to the city of Koreneva, and the most interesting and the most valuable things are coming exactly from this territory. So we are talking about this small part on his map, and so there are very important difference between the things that you can see on his map and this map on the military summary. So according to Syrskyi, the Ukrainians during the previous phase of the Kursk offensive operation managed to establish complete control over this territory. So this is approximately the more or less plus minus the line of combat contact that goes according to the map of Syrskyi. Of course, significant progress, significant difference with the things that we used to see in the previous videos, but there is one important exception according to his map. If you can see the cursor, I would like to point your attention exactly in this area. I hope you can see what exactly I'm pointing to. So according to Syrskyi, there are Russian soldiers and Russian forces who are currently encircled between the villages of Durovka and Kremenoe. And according to him, these are the forces of 810th Brigade that were encircled by the Ukrainians as a result of the Kursk offensive operation. Furthermore, currently the front line goes, let's say, from the Koren itself down to the village of Vetrina, and this is the small position, small foothold of the armed forces of Russian Federation that they try to hold and not to allow the Ukrainians to encircle the Russians inside of Durovka and Kremenoe itself. So this is the situation in this direction. So the Ukrainians managed to cut the railways. Once again, the Ukrainians managed to encircle, according to Syrskyi. I'm not saying that this is 100% sure information. This is very just important opinion, very important piece of news from the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of Ukraine. And we're trying to compare the things that we have on map, that every single mapper have right now, like neutral mappers or pro-Ukraine mappers, with the reality the Syrskyi, the commander-in-chief of armed forces of Ukraine, is living in. So the Russians are encircled here. The Russians continue holding their positions inside of this small pocket in the vicinity of the village by the name of Vetrina. And telling the truth, this configuration completely corresponds to the reality of the reports that we received a few days ago, that the Russians somehow managed to repel Ukraine attacks in direction of the village by the name of Tolpina. So maybe 5 days ago the Russians stated about these attempts to attack from the Ukrainian side, and and the Ukrainians were stabbed as a result of artillery fire and so on, and different types of weapon. So a lot of things that fits this situation. Furthermore, I'll remind you that, for example, in this video that was published by pro-Ukrainian sources, we can see how the Ukrainians were FPV droning the Russian soldiers of 810th Marine Brigade, and after FPV droning, the Russian forces began retreating and withdrawing their positions towards the cauldron inside of Durovka and Kremenoe. Significant number of forces, let's say, retreat from Olgovka, from Matveevka, and these villages were captured in the future, so not in the future, already captured by the Ukrainians. So the Russian soldiers, after FPV drone strikes, retreat from Olgovka towards Durovka, and now the Russians are trying to hold this line until the reinforcements arrive or until the Russians are able to unblock these forces. Very difficult situation for the Russians, but the most important that they are not giving up. The Russians do have possibilities to support and supply these forces in Cauldron, and most likely, and the most important, that positions are very close to each other. Now the Russians need to think how to conduct a counter-offensive in the vicinity of the railway and to unblock the Russian forces completely. So this is the primary target for the Russians, according to Syrskyi. Furthermore, according to the same map, we see that Ukrainians entered the eastern, southeastern part of Korineva, and we do have geolocations that can confirm this. For example, in this video that we have already discussed during the previous update, the Ukrainians tried to send the evacuation machine to evacuate wounded Ukrainian soldiers from the line of combat contact, but due to the fact that the positions are very close to each other, the Russians destroyed the evacuation vehicles, and the Ukrainians haven't managed to complete this process. Furthermore, we have the video from inside of Korineva itself. In this video, we can see another Ukrainian convoy who was moving from the area of bridge from the Nikolaevka area towards the mainland, but this convoy was ambushed by the Russian forces and destroyed. So this video confirms Ukrainian progress. I'm not sure what to do with this territory. Maybe we need to adjust the map, maybe we need to add a contested area or the gray zone, but obviously we need to do something with this territory. At least Syrskyi is not reliably resourced, but his official authorities, so let's wait a little bit and then we will understand. Now let's move further. Let's talk about the northern direction. We have additional updates, and now we are talking about this part. If you can take a look at Syrskyi map, we are talking about this area, and according to Syrskyi map, the village of Sheptuchovka is currently under complete Ukrainian control. So let's adjust the map. The Russians haven't entered Skrylovka or Safonovka, so most likely the village of Sheptuchovka, Kauchuk and Alexeyevsky is under complete Ukraine control, at least according to the map of Syrskyi that was provided today. So let's return back. This is the village, and if you have access to this post, if you have access to the map or to this Telegram channel, if you zoom in with a very bad, poor quality, you will be able to read the title of the village, Sheptukovka. So, and you will be able to find the blue icon of Ukrainian soldiers exactly above this territory. So once again, summarizing everything, the village of Sheptukovka, Kauchuk and Alexeyevsky are already under complete Ukraine control. So that's it about the northern flank. Now let's talk about the area in the vicinity of Malaya Lochnia, and the most interesting updates are coming from this area as well. Today the Ukrainian forces published the video how they were attacking the Russian forces inside of these these buildings. This video was geolocated. According to information we have, the Ukrainians were attacking this territory with the forces of 79th Brigade, and of course, based on this video and due to the fact that we haven't received anything further from the northern direction, we can make a conclusion that this is the line of combat contact. But this is not like this, and according to Syrskyi, this territory was captured by the Ukrainians. If you see the cursor, this is exactly where I'm pointing on, and according to Syrskyi map, this territory, including the village of Pogribki, according to the village of Marievka, were captured by the Ukrainians. And now the most important part, the question, if this territory was captured by the Ukrainians, how do we get the video of how the Ukrainians were attacking this territory? And according to Syrskyi, there is a very, very small but a red point. This is it. This, as you can see, a small red some icon right exactly in this area. And according to Syrskyi, there are Russian soldiers who are currently also encircled, and they're giving a battle and they're fighting with the Ukrainians in the vicinity of Staraya Sorochina and Malaya Loknya. Maybe the area of Russian control is bigger than you can see right now in front of your screens, but according to Syrskyi, once again, this territory also was already bypassed by the Ukrainians. There are Russian soldiers in complete encirclement, and the Ukrainians are trying to capture this territory and to capture significant number of Russians. Now let's move further and let's talk about the area between Ruskaya Porечnia and Marinka, also according to Syrskyi. So on this map, this is the territory we are talking about. So summarizing everything, according to Syrskyi, this territory is also under complete Ukrainian control, and this explains how the Russians were encircled exactly in the village of Malaya Loknya. And this also explains why the Russians were saying, have been saying for a very long period of time, and they talked about this today, that Malaya Loknya is under complete Russian control. So according to the Ukrainians, there are Russian encircled soldiers. And we have the video from this point. In this video we can see, according to the group of forces North, the Russians were bombing this territory with FAB, and the Russians are saying that they discovered the concentration of Ukrainian forces who were planning to move further in the north. So based on this video we have adjusted just a small polygon, this one, but according to Syrskyi we should have adjusted this entire territory. So very interesting report. Now let's move to Sudzha direction, to the eastern flank, and according to Syrskyi, this territory, also the eastern flank territory, also was captured. But if you are able to, if you have access to this map, if you can zoom, you will see that the current situation completely corresponds with the situation that you can find on the Syrskyi map. So Martinovka under the Ukrainian control, Mikhailovka under the Ukrainian control, Sudzha under Ukrainian control, and Ruskaya, Konopelka, Pushkarnaya, these villages are under complete Russian control. And we have geolocation that can confirm this. For example, in this video we can see an episode of a very close combat between Russian armored vehicle and Ukrainian armored vehicle, and Ukrainian armored vehicle was destroyed within a very short and close battle as a result of very heavy fire from the Russian armored vehicle. So if we go back on map, the situation was as following. The Russian armored vehicle was located exactly in this point, so it was like an ambush, and the Ukrainian armored vehicle was moving along this road, and when the Ukrainian armored vehicle turned in the northern direction, it was destroyed exactly in this point as a result of machine gun fire. The Ukrainians tried to retreat, but just within 5 seconds the entire personal carrier or armored vehicle was destroyed, and most likely nobody survived there. So there are a few more interesting points in the Syrskyi map. So once again, the Russians are encircled in the vicinity of Korineva, the Russians are encircled in the vicinity of Malaya Loknya, and the most important, that there are still icons in the vicinity of Sudzha. It's maybe you don't see these icons, but there are 1, 2, 3 icons, and these icons are coming exactly from this territory, from Milovoy, from Kurilovka, from this part. And according to Syrskyi, there are also Russian soldiers who are fighting in complete encirclement. And telling the truth, the most interesting thing is that we have received a lot of updates from different parts of Kursk direction, the Kursk direction, but we haven't received anything from this area. And during the previous videos, I was always telling you that we will keep this area as contested area, because some sources are saying that there are still Russian soldiers. We haven't received the videos with flags, any videos with a flag or something like this. And now this Syrskyi maps explains everything. Basically, there are still Russian soldiers who are also encircled, and the Ukrainians are trying to capture their positions and to attack them from many directions, but the Russians still hold their lines. So very interesting updates. Summarizing everything, we can make a conclusion that most likely, according to pro-Ukrainian sources, there are 3 cauldrons already. The biggest cauldron is located in the vicinity of Korineva, small cauldron in the Malaya Loknya, and probably very strong positions of the armored forces of Russian Federation between Milovoy and Kurilovka. The question is what the Russians are planning to do with this, how the Russians are supporting their forces inside of these territories, and what the Russians are planning to do next. Very interesting updates, but maybe this is just a speculation from the Ukrainian side, another attempt from the Ukrainian side to make panic among the Russians or something like this. Anyway, sooner or later, other sources will confirm this information or not, and then we will start adjusting the map. I find this information very interesting. Now let's move to Glushkovo direction. We have few updates from this territory. If you remember, during the previous days, the Ukrainians destroyed the bridges through the village of Seim. Yesterday we got the video how the Ukrainians destroyed the bridge in Karish, then the day before yesterday in Zvanne, and 3 days ago in Glushkovo. And then we start receiving updates that the Russians began building pontoon bridges along Seim River to stabilize the situation and to have a stable support of this foothold. And today the Ukrainian sources published the video, most likely after some Telegram channels shared the video with the pontoon bridges. The Ukrainians published the video of attacks on the Russian engineering equipment, including the pontoon bridges equipment, and as a result of these attacks the Ukrainians managed to destroy them. Furthermore, we got very interesting report from the city of Glukhov. If you remember, we were talking a lot that most likely the Ukrainians are planning to attack in this direction, in direction of Rilsk. And today we got report from pro-Russian sources. We have the video as well. In this video we can see most likely Iskander strike on the temporary position or the headquarters, and now the most important part of this piece of news, of 47th Mechanized Brigade. This is a fantastic piece of news, telling the truth, because if you are familiar with the situation, if you follow the military summary updates, you might note that the 47th Mechanized Brigade used to be in the area in the Pokrovsk direction, and the 47th Brigade have been taking clashes with the Russians since November of 2023, when the Russians began Avdiivka offensive operation. And the most important thing is that this morning we got report that the 47th Brigade of the Ukraine Armed Forces was withdrawn from their theater of the operations due to the loss of combat capabilities. So the sources reported that today the brigade lost its combat capabilities, and the Ukrainians removed this brigade probably towards the western part of Ukraine to restore their possibilities. But now we understand that the Ukrainians are using these phrases, this way of introduction of information, to secretly redeploy forces from one direction to another, and most likely the 47th Mechanized Brigade was redeployed from the Pokrovsk direction towards the Kursk direction. Very interesting piece of news. From one side, we see that Ukrainians are planning to continue their Kursk offensive operation. They're sending here the most important, the most powerful, well-trained and most experienced forces, with the purpose most likely to capture the Kursk power plant, nuclear power plant. The Russians, we don't know for sure what the Russians are redeploying in this direction, but today we got report that the Russians have already formed three groups of forces: Belgorod, Bryansk and Kursk, to protect the border. And all this group of forces has the titles of the capitals of these regions. So this is Bryansk direction, this is Bryansk, the city of Bryansk, this is the city of Kursk, and this is the city of Belgorod. So based on the names of these three cities, the capitals of three regions, Bryansk region, Kursk region and Belgorod region, the Ukrainians created three attack forces. The Russians created three defense group of forces. Now let's move further. Let's continue with the Pokrovsk direction. During the previous day, during the previous 24 hours, we have some changes on the ground, but they are very small. We got some report from the city of Grodovka. The Ukrainian sources published additional video of how they were bombing and attacking the Russian forces inside of this part of Grodovka, which confirms very small but additional progress of the armed forces of Russian Federation. But as for global changes, we haven't received anything about further Russian progress to the city of Novogrodovka, Selidova, and the most important, no progress was recorded as a result of clashes for the landfills, which is the most important. The only thing we got is one video how the Russians were bombing and attacking the Ukrainian forces inside of the coal mine by the name of Russia, and this is the third geolocation during the previous 2 days, which confirms that most likely this is is the primary target for the Russians. First, to capture the landfill, and then to think what to do next. Maybe they have already the plan, but first to take the landfill. Of course, different mappers adjusted their maps. Some mappers reported about additional Russian progress in the vicinity of Marinovka. Some sources recorded additional progress of the armed force of Russian Federation in the vicinity of Krasny Yar and Novogrodovka itself, and this progress was confirmed by pro-Ukrainian mappers, but we haven't received geolocations that can confirm this. Most likely the Russians managed to achieve these results, but once again, it's the third or the fourth day in a row when we stop receiving any updates about further Russian progress to the west due to the wall of the Terikons. Now let's move further to the south, Donetsk direction. We have additional progress of the armed forces of Russian Federation in the eastern part. According to information we have from different mappers, this part of Konstantinovka was captured by the Russians. And the most important report during the previous 24 hours is coming from the city of New York. Now it's no longer New York. The Russians renamed or are about to rename New York to Novgorodsk. Today the Ministry of Defense of Russian Federation reported that as a result of active operations by the Central Group of Forces units, a large group of Ukrainian troops was defeated, and one of the largest settlements of the Toretsk agglomeration, the strategically important logistics center of Novgorodsk, was captured by the Russians or established control. The Ukrainians were completely defeated and were forced to fall back. Furthermore, we got this territory. Due to this report, we have adjusted these territories, and this information also was confirmed by pro-Ukrainian mappers. We have additional progress in the city of Druzhba. The Ukrainian sources published the video how they were FPV droning the Russians in this area, and based on this video most of the mappers have adjusted their maps. Furthermore, right before we start making the video, we got another geolocation from this building which also confirms additional Russian progress in the direction of Toretsk. So the battle for Toretsk has begun, and it's going to be very interesting how the situation is going to continue to develop. Summarizing everything, the Ukrainians are not planning to stop. Furthermore, we got report that Ukrainians has made an urgent request to NATO for heavy engineering and medical equipment. The NATO Coordination Center said in a statement, which confirms in total Ukraine is requesting 17 tracked and 10 wheeled heavy excavators, 30 tractor trailers capable of carrying loads of up to 100 tons, and 25 armored ambulances and 27 firefighting vehicles. The Ukrainians are planning not to continue offensive operation. The Ukrainians are planning to build a well-layered fortification and defense built on the territory of Russian Federation. They are planning to create a stronghold in the Kursk direction, which the Russians most likely will be forced to recapture maybe for months, but not like for 1 or 2 days or 1 week or something like this. So the situation was escalated once again, and let's see what is going to be next. And that's it for today. Military Summary channel reminds to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes to my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.